Okay, good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone, albeit virtually. Before we start the meeting, I just wanted to, because it's International Women's Day, I just wanted to, I thought it might be fitting to highlight an individual who I think is inspirational in the world of in the environment. And I think quite often they go very sort of unpublished in the media. And this person that I'd like to mention is Jane Goodall. And Jane Goodall is an amazing woman. She's dedicated 60 years to studying chimpanzees all over the world, but particularly in Africa. And so she's become one of the kind of foremost experts on chimpanzees. She's also set up various institutions and charities, and extensively worked on conservation and animal welfare issues. And she's been named UN Messenger of Peace. And I just, basically wanted to say I think she's an inspirational person in the area of conservation. I think it's fitting to do that today before we start the meeting.
Thank you.
Right, so I think the first before we start the formal agenda is public questions. So has anyone got any questions at all? Yes, hello.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Hello,
yes,
Martin.
Sorry.
Martin.
I'm Martin Collins, Swell Group Friends of the Earth. Amongst the many things we're exercised about is plastic grass. There's quite an interesting article in The Guardian recently, which summarises the issues. I mean, the scale of the industry is phenomenal. £2.5 billion worth of plastic grass being sold every year. Scarcely believable. Anyway, so we thought it was appropriate to highlight the issues, how bad it is for biodiversity, for climate change, all kinds of things with it. I mean, it contributes to microplastics. It's obviously nothing lives underneath it or on it or feeds on it. It's sterile. It's I'm trying to think of a sufficiently horrible word. Anyway, it shouldn't be. And if we could, if I could, as a member of Friends of the Earth, encourage the council to include thoughts on plastic grass in any literature you provide on biodiversity. We've got a little sort of campaign leaflet. Perhaps that might even be included, just to encourage people to think twice before they go for what they might think is an easy option. Some of these grasses are being sold as eco-friendly, which is quite a nonsense.
Okay.
So there we are.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to make any comments? Councillor Perkin.
I just wanted to say thanks for bringing that to the council, and I think that's absolutely a really relevant thing to raise. I think I read that Guardian article not long ago, and I think it says in there something like we've lost 97% of our English meadow in like a generation, which is just an astonishing amount of biodiversity loss. So really anything we can do to kind of offset that, even in a little way, is good. I'd be really interested in seeing the information leaflet that you've done, if you don't mind posting it somewhere.
I will do, yes.
That'd be great. Thanks, Martin. Thank you ever so much for raising that. I think it's absolutely right.
Thank you. So, and anyone else? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, and thank you, Martin, for raising this. I have a question, because one of the things that has happened is a lot of sports facilities now have artificial turf, third generation artificial pitches and that. And I'd like to know your view on those sort of things.
Well, I'm not the person to ask, really, not being somebody who's going to use these surfaces in any sense. But the same things apply in terms of biodiversity, in terms of damage to the environment. Exactly the same things apply. I can understand from a professional point of view, I suppose, that it's going to save money in the long term, or perhaps I should say in the medium term. But still, my prejudice would be, as you would imagine, for the real thing, for the natural thing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Perkin.
All right. I wondered whether it would be worth, when we're speaking about biodiversity in people's gardens. I know we've had conversations with Andersons, for example, about speaking to their new residents about biodiversity within their gardens and how we can speak to other residents about that. I wondered whether it's worth including that as part of our kind of drive to improve biodiversity in individual gardens.
I think that would be very appropriate. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a couple of comments from me. Well, firstly, I need to declare an interest, actually, because I'm a campaign leader for 12 Friends of the Earth for Biodiversity, so I ought to do that. Just recently appointed, actually. So, secondly, in terms of my personal opinion is that I think, as Councillor Perkins said, I think including into what we do to encourage people to create better biodiversity in their gardens, I think will be a good way to look at it, and we can do it more of an encouraging and giving people information rather than being too sort of when I say sort of make people feel bad if they've already got it kind of situation. So I think there's certainly something that's worth raising awareness, and I'm sure we can, if there's, as you say, there's information within Friends of the Earth that we can collaborate on in the future, that would be good. So we'll keep in touch with that, I'm sure.
Just briefly, the leaflet, I should have had it to hand. To whom should I send it or submit it? Our little poster.
Can send it to the town clerk. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Martin. Was there any other questions from members of the public at all? Don't think so. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm just going to get the agenda up. So apologies for absence, but I think we're all here, so that's good. Declarations of interest. Anyone got anything to declare for items on the agenda at all? No. Jolly good. Okay, minutes of previous meetings and matters arising. To agree the minutes and receive an update on matters arising. So everyone's seen the, so I've got several documents up on my computer, just having a look. Has anyone got anything they'd like to raise at all from the minutes from the last meeting, or anything that's incorrect at all? Yeah, Councillor Perkin.
I just wanted to mention in 102 in the minutes where it says that yourself had some contact with Councillor Valentine around pesticide free. I wondered whether that conversation is now being carried on with Councillor Saunders, who's the new cabinet member for the environment. Thank you.
Yeah, I spoke to the town clerk, and we've reached out to Councillor Saunders to convene a meeting just to kind of go over what we did with Councillor Valentine. I think the officers obviously that were there will still know the information, and I think Councillor Saunders is fairly aware of what the town council are doing, but yeah, we will try and update that meeting, I think. I don't know if there's any town clerk, if there's any got anywhere on that, or
No, not yet. And I also emailed KCC Cabinet, Michael Payne, Cabinet Member, and I've not received anything back from that either. So just waiting on it.
Thank you. Hopefully by next meeting we'll have something to update with regards to those. Okay. For some reason I can't open the minutes up on my computer. So I've got nothing to raise from those minutes. So I'm happy to propose to accept those minutes. I'll have a seconder. Councillor Martin, thank you. We'll vote on those, please.
Happy with that.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Okay. So the next item is living roofs, to discuss quotes and agree next steps. So this applies to the bus shelter living roofs rather than living roofs in general. But and within the document circulated, there's 2 quotations received from Clear Channel. There's also there was also a couple of presentations which kind of show basically what these bus shelters will look like. What I could do, could I, Town Clerk, is it possible to share my screen? I don't know if I've got access to do that.
You should be able to now.
Okay, let's see. Okay, can you see that? Okay, I'll just quickly, just for those that maybe don't know, so Clear Channel are the company who basically that create the shelters and manage them, and not all of them in town, but certainly the ones we've been talking about. The living roof ones basically are very much a similar sort of shelter to any others, but they have a Sedum living roof on the top. I'll just see if there's more. A lot of them are just, yeah, so it's basically a shelter here with a plant, basically a plant on top with a living roof on, and this is what we've been talking about for quite a while now. The quotations include, obviously what they have to do is they have to remove the existing shelter and basically put a brand new one in with this new living roof on. So the quotations for, the 2 quotes are for basically to do that, to do the whole installation process. I think there's much else to say in here, and obviously it sort of talks about the benefits to biodiversity and the air quality, which of course is something we're part of the reasons for doing it. I think that's an example of one they've done before. I think that's in London. Okay, just go back. Stop sharing it a minute. That's it. So. Has anyone any questions on the quote? So there's 2, one for Stone Street and one for the Mall. We initially looked at also one for Newton Road, but the man from Clear Channel who came to survey it's basically deemed the Newton Road one as not really possible because of the width of the pavement and the fact there's a junction there. So basically, we've got the 2 quotes for the other 2. Has everyone had a chance to look at them? Yeah. What could I ask any thoughts or comments on them at this stage? Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
Are you recommending one or the other? It's just that I noticed the prices were a lot more than had been estimated. Yeah.
So the budget. We've within this year's current budget, we've got enough to fulfil one shelter, but we've within next year's budget, then we can do the second one. So the choice is whether we get on, and if we decide to, of course, to get a shelter on the going, or whether we look to do 2. But my personal feeling is that that the Stone Street shelter, which is a slightly cheaper one, is the one that seems to be the most suitable in the sense of from their surveys, because the Mall one, there was a talk from somebody about the potential that one might have to be moved in the future for crossing possibly. But I'm not really sure if that's factual or whether that's just something that's come in the past. But the Stone Street, as I say, was the one that is slightly cheaper quote. Yeah, Councillor Perkin.
Well, I mean, looking at the placement of the one that we've discussed around Stone Street, I think Stone Street is quite a kind of concretey grey area, isn't it? It doesn't have a huge amount of biodiversity there, and it certainly doesn't have any kind of green pathways at all for insects and things. So I would, whereas with the Mall, it has got a fair, it's, you know, the new planters are there, and I know that the community groups do quite a lot of planting in the little beds there and things. So I think personally, my opinion is if we're going to crack on with one of them, it should be the Stone Street one first. I agree.
Thank you.
I agree with that, Hannah.
Yeah, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I agree. I think Stone Street makes more sense. I think the thing with the Mall one is because of the remodelling of the A251A2 junction and associated works that have been suggested around the Mall entrance and crossings for the secondary school on the A2, and also to a certain extent the development of the south of the A2. I think it would be pertinent for us to do the Stone Street one first and see what the effect of the remodelling has on the way the Mall one would work. See what I mean? I think we can do that. We can do Stone Street straight away. The Mall one, it may be wise for us to wait and see how the transport modelling comes out with the action.
Yes.
See what I mean?
I would agree.
For the sake of perhaps 6 months or something, it might be worth just bearing that one into next year and doing the Stone Street one now. Thank you. And
Councillor Thomas.
Oh, thank you. No, I do agree. Stone Street is the one to do first, and the Mall one, I assume, is the one outside Jewson's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's unlikely to be affected by the changes that are being made, but as we're only doing one first and the other one later, I don't see any reason to worry about it at the moment. Did they say any reason why their original estimate was much lower than what they've come back with?
I think basically when we had the original meeting with Clear Channel, they based their estimates on the basically doing a like-for-like replacement, but obviously with the living roof on top. They say a lot of it is subject to when they do the surveying about, you know, what costs are involved with highway, if there's anything that's obviously got to be done in terms of working with the Highways Authority, but also I'm guessing how complicated it is to extract the old one, put the foundations into the new one. The other difference between the two as well is that the Mall shelter is an advertising shelter, which obviously costs more because there's more to it. There's more lighting. There's the advertising board to go in. The Stone Street one, they suggested that it wasn't, because it's not already an advertising one, it's not suitable, and they're not planning on doing that for that particular shelter. So that makes it also a bit cheaper. I also got the impression from them that they're having problems. They've already said that the lead times for these are quite long compared to what they normally are. They could be somewhere within quite a short period of time in a normal lead time, but actually it could be up as far as 40 weeks. And this is partly because of coronavirus and obviously the backlog, but also because Brexit, basically, and getting things into the country and manufacturing and transportation. So I think there is a cost increase possibly because of that as well, although they haven't categorically said that. It's just a suggestion from their point. I don't know if there's anything, Louise, that you've picked up that indicate anything to do with the pricing that I've missed.
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay.
But I just wanted to remind you about the Kcc Member Grant that we got for just under 9,500, because part of that was to go towards a bus shelter.
Yeah.
So we could effectively order both at the same time.
Yeah.
When did we get that, Chair, this grant from KCC?
Well, we had the confirmation just a couple of weeks ago. Have we received the funds?
Yeah, we received the funds last week into our account.
Well, that's good. I mean, I didn't realise the grant application had gone in.
That's good then.
Yeah, so Councillor Hook wanted to contribute some of his remaining funds to the climate and biodiversity works within the town, and he was looking at particular projects, and one was that I said that we were looking at doing, which is obviously more substantial, was the bus shelters, and if there was any, if we was only going to use part of that, then some of it could go towards some of the other projects, such as planters or other biodiversity planting. So, but obviously with the application, it had to have a specific project to be allocated rather than just environmental work. Otherwise, it was kind of a bit too vague. So that's good that we've had that as a kind of recent contribution to the pot. Louise also reminds me in the chat that actually she said conversation to Alan Blackburn about the MAL, and that shouldn't be an issue with it being moved or anything like that. Yeah, Councillor Martin.
In that case, given that we know we've got the funding and the town clerk assured us that it's within our budget, I would suggest we go ahead with both, because if anything, we at the very least, we may get a little bit of discount if they're able to do the works with the same crew at the same time. Maybe not a lot, but it's worth asking them, I think, to, if we accept both, can we get a right price?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
Can I just ask that we do push them for clarity on these quotes, because previously there was quite a large difference between one with an advertising on it and one without.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information on this quote. What are they proposing to supply precisely? Is it the same size, for instance? Clarifying it hasn't got the advertising on. It's just surprising of the difference between what they've quoted and what they've said. They've nearly doubled the price. A bit startling.
Yeah, it is. I agree. And unfortunately, it's taken a lot longer to come through than I suppose we first anticipated. The person who was basically going out to do this survey and quotation, he was on furlough, so it's we would have been further down and we would have been able to discuss it, I think. And unfortunately, between the last meeting and this meeting, this is when the quotes have come through. So my thoughts from it all is, I think we do need to get a bit more information, but we also, I think if we were to do at least one, then the Stone Street is the obvious first one to do. But equally, if two was better value, particularly with the budget we've got, then we should look at doing that. Particularly if it works out better value in terms of them being able to do that as a one job, if you like. But I'm not sure how they work and how they operate. Whether that's static, those prices, whether they can do that, I really don't know. Also, I think if we were to just go with one, we've got to, I guess, bear in mind the fact that the quote will run out, and then we'll have to probably get it re-quoted if we do one, say, later in the year or next year. And obviously we'll have to then sort of assess that. So it doesn't matter if that's the case, so that's what we decide, but we just got to bear in mind that, again, the price may go up or down, depending on the situation, I guess. So the answer really is that the price difference is it could be various things, but it could be down to the fact of unknowns, or it could be just down to the market. But we can hope maybe try and find that out. But it's whether we want to make a decision this meeting, or whether we want to go back and get more information. Bearing in mind with the next meeting in May. Yeah, Councillor Martin.
Maybe the town clerk can answer us on this one. Does this need to go to P&F, Policy and Finance, or is it just we can just make that decision?
Yeah.
In that case, I would propose that, subject to the chair getting suitable answers to the two questions posed, that we agree in principle to having both done and delegate power to the chair to action that.
Okay, thank you.
That would then speed up and ensure that we would get an acceptance of quotes in the time that they've quoted for, so the quotes don't run out.
Yeah, Louise.
Usually it would be delegated to an officer to do, but
do that.
Happy to work with the chair on it.
Yeah.
But it's just as a reminder, it has been budgeted for, so we've got the money, plus the fact we've had an additional grant for it as well. But I'm happy to work with the chair, and we see if we can get a discount for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Councillor Perkins, did you want to come in?
I was just going to second that proposal. That seems sensible.
If it takes 40 weeks, we're looking at Christmas anyway, aren't we? The very end of the year.
Potentially, yeah. It depends. I mean, it's like anything at the moment. Who knows, really? I think we might be able to get more clarity if we go out to them, because they may have a better picture. The quote, I think, stated like the 18th of February. So it's already been a couple of weeks. So they may actually have a bit more information. But I'm happy to work with the town clerk on coming back. That obviously, if and keeping communication about it. It would be good to see at least one, hopefully two, done this year, because we were intending to try and progress it last year, but obviously it wasn't possible. So if everyone's happy with that decision, to take that forward and seek further information, check the pricing, and then come back, between us to make sure everyone's happy. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That. Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you. Also, one thing just to say about Stone Street, actually, I know it's not technically related to this agenda item, but it is in some ways. When on previous meetings we've talked about talking to Kcc Highways about the potential tree planting locations on the side of the road. When I've from the last meeting, we put together sort of lists of potential locations. It's obviously ongoing. As part of thinking about this as being this shelter potentially going in, I also suggested that could be a good place for a couple of trees in the future as well, to generally green up Stone Street in addition. So if we do get the bus shelter, it can come along potentially with some trees, maybe next winter when the future. Yeah, Councillor Perkin.
Yeah.
I think that's really positive. I was just going to say as well, I know that in public spaces that myself and Councillor Thomas and Adam Andrews have looked at improving disability access in Stone Street, and I know that they are planning to potentially put some more drop curbs in, so it might just be worth having a kind of joined up think about when this goes in and how that is impacted by that work, just to make sure that it's all kind of working together, really.
Yeah,
joining the ducks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think it's just certain areas like that a little bit of improvement actually makes a huge difference to not only the people that live directly there, but people that use that area. And I think is positive. Thank you. Anything else on this item, or is everyone happy to move on? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, so we're now on to Youth Climate Panel, to consider the Youth Climate Panel proposal. Okay. Right. So I've got literally so many things on my screen. I'm trying to. I'm just going to bring it up onto the screen. It's just easier, I think, for me to read it as well as everyone else. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to look, have a look at this. So I just for the benefit of those that are going to listen back to this and those listening in, I'll just explain briefly the reasoning behind this. So this meeting within this committee and the youth working group, we've talked about trying to get young people involved with environmental work in the town, and my thoughts were that a youth climate panel could be a good way of doing that, and that this committee would sort of oversee it in the sense of we're kind of, the work we're doing here will obviously influence what they might want to be doing as well. So I've created essentially a kind of a vision, a purpose of the group, and a sort of a terms of reference. I know that can be defined if a group's set up, but just to give an idea of the kind of rationale and what the group will be doing. So essentially, it's to provide a platform for young people who are very interested in climate change and various other issues around the environment. Allow young people to feed into Faversham Town and Swale Borough Council policies and actions, which I think is really important. Link up with the school environment groups, school ambassadors, and open opportunities for young people to get involved with community projects or volunteer roles. And then there's various other things that like lobbying IMP and us, because we're we obviously need to be told if we're not doing enough, or if people want to see us do. And generally sort of provide that link between us which are making these decisions and the young people that ultimately have a lot of passion relating to climate change and environmental concerns. The idea really is that the panel will be. Sorry, I'm just going to get down. So the panel will consist of young people between ages of 11 and 18, which again is a sort of suggested age, but again could be changed. I was just trying to think of an age group that was probably the most sort of engaged in this area. I've suggested a representative councillor or councillors from this committee and a town council officer would attend the meetings. My feelings that Brooke would be a good officer for this, perhaps. I think the group can be quite a fluid group, so I think they can elect to chair each meeting rather than have one chair for the meeting. But again, this would be very much up to the young people, and I think it's really important that a diverse membership is created, so that you get representative people from all over the town, not just from certain demographics that you might typically expect. So to try and get a good range of young people, and really it needs to be shaped by them, and we essentially oversee it rather than drive it forward. And I think it should, I've suggested it perhaps should to meet bi-monthly rather than monthly. I think young people have a lot to do, we have a lot to do, and I think doing it too frequently might be a bit too stressful. To keep it quite simple, but again, it can be changed. So obviously there's a bit more in there to digest, but my feelings of the next steps, if this is something we'd like to do, is that we obviously need to reach out to those that have already expressed interest. And I know Brooke's got some young people of interest that expressed an interest in some of this, but obviously to try and get reach out to those that haven't already, and obviously with the schools. And Brooke has already created a sort of a demo sort of page on the Youth Council website to get them to give an idea of what it could be like. Before I go to ask what everyone's views are, there's a couple of things just to mention that's, since I put this together. One is that I spoke to the QE school because I had a conversation with them quite a while ago about their environmental work, and they've got a green group that would be quite interested in getting involved. So there is the interest there from the schools. Secondly, today I met for the first time, or virtually met, Grace Couch, who is Climate and Ecological Emergency Project Officer at Swaborough Council. She wrote to me because she's also interested in doing things with the youth about climate change. So I think there's obviously also the link there with Swale as well. So it's not something we do in isolation. So I'm just going to stop sharing that for the moment because I can see everyone now. Any questions, thoughts? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? I'd like to know. Yeah, Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, fully supportive. I think it's a great idea. I think that it seems like an absolute age ago now, but when there were the youth climate strikes in the summer, I think 2019 it must have been, there was real kind of vibe around it, wasn't there? Like, and children from kind of all age groups were there. There was kind of primary school representation and secondary school, and I know that it was basically coordinated and run by a couple of just really passionate members of the QE. So absolutely think it's a great idea. Anything we can do to speak to young people about what they care about, I think, is really important. So fully supportive.
Thank you. Yeah, Madam Mayor.
I have had a letter from an 8-year-old, actually, Chris, which I'm hoping to send to all of you. He's writing because he'd been seeing a lot of litter lately walking around Faversham. It is very bad for the environment, and it also doesn't really look nice. Litter can also be dangerous for animals and birds. I want something to be done about it. And anyway, there's a couple more paragraphs, and it's absolutely spot on. And I just think if we get the younger generation looking, eventually we will turn some things around. So I think the more we do with the youth, the better. Absolutely. So I'll pass this letter on so you can all read it. I am going to reply personally to it. He's going to design a poster about picking up litter, and he would like to show this to the councillors and hope they will agree to put my poster up around the town. So yeah, I mean, so it's really good, positive.
Yeah,
positive.
That's really, really great.
Yeah.
I think I just think it has such more of an impact when children and young adults reach out and say if they're not happy about something or they want to change something. I do feel it has more. And I don't consider myself a young person anymore, unfortunately, because I am really not connected with people of the ages that I've. But yeah, there we go.
It's positive when they know and acknowledge. It's great. We can work with that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Perkin.
I also think just in terms of young person engagement in local government is really important as well, because we know that kind of across the board that councillors are quite often older. So if young people start feeling like local government is an option for them and that it's something that listens and represents their feelings as well, then that might encourage people to get more involved with local government. I think that that's absolutely crucial to, being as representative as we can as an authority.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you.
definitely move ahead.
So, as I say, the proposal is not set in stone in the sense of the completeness of it, because I think it's got to be, if obviously if the next steps are taken, and obviously it is something that can be set up, then it can be very much shaped by those that are participating. But I think really it's as a committee, if we're happy, if somebody's happy to second it as a proposal to take forward, then we can hopefully get it started. Yeah, Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to second that proposal. I think it's a very positive thing, and let's just hope that there is time for schools to encourage engagement, and we can arrange it at the right time so that the young people can engage. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's challenging for schools, but we can only but try. I will also. Brooke has asked if I can talk to it on the youth working group as well. So I think again it's a crossover thing. Okay, are we all happy with that?
Yeah, definitely worth going down that road.
Okay. Where are we? So community gardening. To discuss Keep Faversham Buzzing Project and seed giveaway. Okay. Now I'm just going to close that. So I'm going to do a couple of things. First of all, because it's interesting, I'm going to share this. Now, we talk about the community garden quite a lot, and we haven't really progressed with much. I think partly because nobody's been able to do a lot of community work, probably. Like with other projects we've done, we've kind of had banners for them or names, things to kind of associate projects with, with the fact that the town won an award for the town with the best buzz, or neighbourhood with the best buzz. I think Keep Faversham Buzzing is a kind of a good perhaps name for all these projects, because we're basically trying to continue that work. And when I had a meeting with the town clerk over some of the actions that we've said from previous meetings, she asked Claire to come up with some ideas for imagery for this. So I'm starting off with this because it's a bit of fun. It's colourful, and it'd be good to choose. But it'd be good to sort of decide on maybe on something that we can use. So when we do social media leaflets, anything like that, it's kind of got a theme running through it, so people identify it as a project. So I don't know if anyone's got any preference to any of these. I'll keep going backwards and forwards. I don't think I don't think this was sent around with all the other documents. I think it might have been missed off. So I mean, it's not. It doesn't have to. It's not really that essential that we. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
I'm going to go for bottom left. Oh no, not quite there. I didn't realise there was more.
So is it that one?
Yeah, I would go.
The one with the bumblebee.
Yes.
3 up from the bottom.
Yeah.
That one.
Yes.
Okay, that one. It's quite nice. What do you think, Madam Mayor? So do you ever?
I like the one below. Below that, the only is the word written like that. I'm not sure young people joined it. I don't know. The wording on the one Councillor Thomas likes, I like that, the way it's spelt, but I quite like the picture with daisies and bees in as well.
The one also, they're slightly different. And so they've got flowers, but they're slightly different.
It's the joint. I don't know.
This sort of style, I wasn't sure whether it would be that legible for some people. I don't know.
And for children, I'm not sure if it's. Whereas Buzz, like that.
I mean, it's not really that important that we come to some sort of conclusion on this, really. But it was just to kind of explain why it says Keep Faversham Buzzing within the community gardening agenda item, really. It was just so that it was, as I said, it was identifiable as something to do.
Can you scroll down again?
Yeah.
So I should have sent this round. I forgot.
I'm a big fan of that little guy at the bottom in the yellow. Quite like him.
Oh,
the little bee. It's really cute.
Maybe on that bottom one, then maybe the font can be changed on the word buzzing.
Yeah, sure it could be.
Got to have some bumblebees in it.
Yeah.
More the merrier.
I think the one above the bumblebees stand out very clearly on the one above the yellow one, and just the font to change on that. That's quite bold. The flowers are there. There's 3 bees on that one as well.
That one could be changed. So this little guy comes up here, look, and he could be there.
Yes, nice one.
3 bees.
I mean, we could go back to Claire and ask her just to tweak it, and it can always be emailed round as a kind of, outside the meeting, just to kind of. But I just wanted to show, I didn't want to take up too much time on it, obviously, but I just thought it'd be good to see.
It's a great idea to have that kind of repeated imagery.
Absolutely,
Well, it also suggests that obviously the whole point of what we're trying to do is that we're trying to do something that's good for bees and wildlife as well. Okay, shall I stop sharing that for the moment?
That's great. And
I'll feed that back, and then I'll ask Claire to sort of send it round, and we can decide later on. So let's just Okay. Ooh. I'm so sorry. Okay. Right. So basically, I think on the last meeting we decided that we would. We've discussed that we've had people that have expressed interest in doing some community gardening, and Brooke's kindly been keeping a record of that, but also obviously kept in touch with those people to say that until restrictions allow, we can we won't be able to do anything. And we also discussed, I think, about start collating places where people have suggested, or councillors have suggested, or anyone basically. And I just put it into a document to highlight basically some of the ones I've suggested. I mean, since this document has been put together, there's actually a couple of others that have been raised to me, and I'm sure there's others that will, you guys will pick out as well. But as a starting point, it just starts to highlight some areas. So the first one is Queen's Hall car park. Now, there's a lady who contacted myself about the small beds and areas within Queen's Hall car park. Admittedly, there's not a great deal there to do, but they are in sort of need of something, and she's willing to sort of set up a small group to do that. So that's the first one. Second one was these 2 small planters on the Whitstable Road, which have been identified that could just do with something just to kind of brighten them up. And I think Councillor Perkins sort of suggested I think Leslie Seeger, who's a very keen local gardener, might be interested in those. But equally, there's others on Whitstable Road as well. The third one is this. There's a couple of small beds just between Hatch Street and Fielding Street. Again, that one's actually, I think, don't think there's anything in that bed, but there's another bed with some plants in that could do with it. It's not a particularly good photo, actually. But it just demonstrates that that's the sort of evidence that's there. This one I haven't put a photo in because there's nothing really to see, but there's quite a number of residents that have suggested they'd quite like to see a community orchard on the Millfield Rec. Clearly this might not be an immediate thing, but I thought it's worth sort of putting it in here because, again, you know, if that is a possibility, then it's something I'm sure that residents would like to get involved with planting. Yeah, Councillor Thomas, do you want to come in on that?
I think with these community orchards, we should ensure that we understand what the residents are looking for, because I'm not too sure what a community orchard is, and it'd be good to have it defined, or the residents define what they expect it to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there could be some confusion or disappointment if they don't know. We're not all aiming for the same thing.
No, I think you're right. I think at the moment I don't know. I think you know, there needs to be some discussion over that, and I think obviously also discussion with Swale about whether that's even possible. You know, as well. But yeah, you're right. I mean, all of these are. Some of them will be easy things, some might be a bit long term, but again, this can be something that can be added to. I'm just keen that we're sort of identifying it if people identify it to us. That makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a small piece of it's not much there at all, but there's a small bed on West Street. Next to upstairs, downstairs antiques. That again, a couple of residents have said they'd like to do a bit to. So again, I'll put it on the list. The two slightly bigger ones are the South Roads beds. There's one outside the vets and one outside Castle's solicitors. Now the reason this is on there, because obviously these have already been gardened already, but the lead coordinator for these is leaving the town, and there was concerns raised by they've got a volunteer base of quite a lot of people, about 30 people already. Faversham in Bloom already get involved. I know Adam's helped as well, so there's already a network of quite a lot of input there. But the coordinator was concerned that if there wasn't someone to oversee these beds, that they may not be enhanced or continue to garden properly, and they may not, you know, that quite a lot of time and money was put into creating what they are now. And the same goes with the next one, which is Napleton Road. There's several down Napleton Road, which are coordinated by the same person, although albeit the volunteer base is slightly different, as I understand. So with regards to that one, I've put that down in there that the suggestion would be that within this project of helping facilitate people community gardening, that we as a town council oversee these continuing to be gardened without taking on a great deal of work for us or officers, but in the sense of just making sure that the volunteers that are already there are kept in communication about the ability to do it. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
We're looking for a new coordinator out of these volunteer database of about 30 people. I'm just thinking then the existing coordinator can explain what she saw her original role as.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting, but basically she's I think that the reason it's approached me or approached us is because basically no one wants to take on the responsibility, which is a real shame. Even when it's stressed that obviously you know, I mean, I'm sure someone will step in, but it was more a case of putting it down as areas of community value that people have been gardening. So we don't have to make a decision. I don't think this, you know, that we do anything about it, but apart from that, it's within our list of kind of areas that are being community gardened, and that if there's any support that we can provide, that you know, it might help those volunteers. My understanding as well is that Ali Corbell from Faversham in Bloom, or Swale in Bloom, would quite happily probably help and assist, oversee them anyway. So I don't think it, to be honest, it will just kind of not happen. But it's more about for us as the town council kind of being involved. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
I was just wondering, is the problem because we're looking for, or there has been just one person overseeing all these beds, which is about 4 or 5 beds? Would volunteers be happier if there was a few of them on each bed rather than covering the whole lot? I'm trying to understand what they're concerned about.
To be honest, I think it's people. The coordinator is very knowledgeable on plants, and I think they're worried that they're going to, you know, without her being there, it's you know, it's not going to happen. I mean, clearly, it's probably will be fine, but I didn't want to kind of not reference it in this list, and then it sort of not be continued. So I don't think there's anything we need to decide to do upon it, apart from maybe work. I mean, I'm quite happy to do it, or you know, it's just work with this lady to see what the options are, and just if there's anything that we can put her in contact with, or whether it's just a case of I don't know, but you know, if we don't have to have it on the list, we can take it off. I don't really mind. It was just making sure that it was sort of within kind of areas that are being sort of worked on.
I'd suggest that we recommend that the volunteers liaise with Ali or yourself if they need advice on planning the beds when it gets to season changes or what have you. If that's what they're concerned about, that's quite an easy thing to resolve.
I think that's probably the concern, is making sure that they're worried about, because Kcc had issues with when, well, particularly it was over lockdown, so there's not a lot anyone could do, but they started getting a little bit wild, which they're meant to be, but they had a lot of other things growing in it. And I think Kcc basically sort of said that if they don't be gardened regularly, that they're taken back over and just trim them down. And I think they were quite worried that would happen. So I think that's the volunteers are kind of concerned that they won't have the ability to keep it in the standard it already is. And I think they can, because they've already been working on it, but I think they just need someone or somebody just to kind of say to them, you can do it, basically. So, but I'm quite happy to contact Ali at Swale and just see what her view is on it, and because she's aware of them, obviously, and in fact I think she's quite happy to go out and actually do some of the work as well. So I don't see it being a major problem, but I was just didn't want to not reference it in case there was an issue to raise. But I'm quite happily update at the next meeting about it. I can't remember. Oh yeah, the only other one was these beds on Station Road, which somebody who lives nearby there said they'd like to see something happen to it. So I put it on the list again. I mean, none of these, no actions have been taken of any of these, and in fact, there will be others, I'm sure, that were identified. But it's more about sort of getting general consensus about whether we contact the volunteers to see if there's any particular beds they'd like to sort of to have a project on, and then see what the possibilities are of those being done. So that's it really in terms of that. I don't know. I'm just trying to think. What was the only ones that aren't on here was what we could put on a list like this is the gateway planters for the 20 mile an hour scheme. I know Councillor Thomas, we in an email conversation about them being taken over from KCC, and that there clearly could be, or albeit not, there's not too much to do to them, but that again it could be a group could oversee them in particular areas. I don't know what you think, Councillor Thomas. Does that sound sensible?
I think in the short term, the main task will be refilling the watering tanks that are built into it.
Yeah.
And someone every now and again needs to have a look to see if any of the evergreen shrubs need replacing.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty much self-sufficient.
They are.
It just needs a bit of TLC and replacement and watering, I would say.
I think, there's a number of these that actually aren't, some of them are bigger, but a lot of these are quite small. And I think I'm conscious that, it'd be lovely to turn the whole of Faversham into a big garden, but that's practically impossible given our time and just a general. I think certain people that have expressed interest, I know that they'll be quite happy just to do things like a bit of watering or a seasonal change in a plant. So they'd be quite happy to do small tasks. Some people might want to get in and actually dig over a new bed. So I think there's varying levels of interest, and clearly the last thing we'd want as a town council committee is to get heavily involved with a or encourage a group that then can't commit to it, and then it turns out to be a mess and then it won't reflect well on the messaging we're trying to do. So Councillor Thomas.
I was just going to say, are you looking to have somewhere where you put it out there that we're looking for volunteers to look after this bed or this patch? Is that the plan?
Yeah, so back, I don't know if everyone remembers, back ages ago, but like last year, when we first was talking about this, we decided to, or Brooke created a poster for the community garden. It went out on Facebook, and within doing that, she got people emailed her, a number of people saying, they didn't say anything particular. They just said, I would like to get involved with a community gardening project. And basically they were put onto a list and basically said, look, we are looking to do these things, but clearly at the moment it's not practical because of coronavirus. So they're people that live in different parts of the town that just want to get involved with a project near them or a project within the town. Some have said, I've seen this bed and I like this Station Road one, for example. Someone said, I would love to do something about this. So I just was trying to put them together, or if anyone else had said, in conversation with anyone else and said this, just to put them on a document so that we've got kind of record of the interest, and then we can work from that point rather than us identifying a piece of ground that no one's interested in doing. It's a really tricky one because it's sort of trying to get projects going, but not trying to do too much, if you see what I mean. It's if I'm honest, I haven't got the answers fully, but I'm just trying to collate what people say. The only other one before I finish talking is the only other one I haven't put on there is the cook stitch. And the reason that could go on here is not because it's a garden as such, but there is the potential with in the future with the it may not happen, but clearly there's a desire for it to happen, is for parts of the cook stitch that are more accessible, that they get cleared of the environmental hazards that are there, the litter and stuff, and potentially be worked upon as a project to increase biodiversity. And if the permissions allow and it's safe to do so in the future, then it might be a friends of that Cookstitch group could be formulated and taken forward. But obviously at the moment it's very early stages, but it's something that could go on the list as a future potential area. I don't know if Councillor Perkin, have you got anything to add to that? Because I know you've worked a lot on it as well.
Yeah, so where we're at with it at the moment is that I've been speaking to all officers, Vicky, Cedric and Joe and Map about the Cookstitch in general, and it's been raised by members of the public for quite a long time now. I know that Alison has raised it as well as a potential area that really needs sorting out. I think that we're just really waiting to hear back from, well, I've been speaking to the officers about kind of ownership of the little bit of land, because it's really important that we don't kind of just trespass onto it essentially. But so we're waiting to hear back from that. Originally the officers sent somebody out to have a look at it to see whether there was anything that they can do around evidencing for fly tipping, but because there wasn't any evidence and it's on private land, they've passed it on to an enforcement officer. It's been given a case number, and essentially I'm just waiting to hear back from the officers at the moment about the kind of next steps with that. It might be that the next steps of that are finding out that they might contact the landowner to be able to chat to them about getting it cleared. And if there's no kind of real joy with that, the next steps might be that we can approach the landowner about getting volunteers in to be able to clear it. But I think what's really key, and I know that Councillor Reynolds has been speaking to the school about it as well, is just creating a kind of long-term solution to it, because I think we can clear it and that would be great. It would look much better, and it would stop all of those kind of potential plastic contaminants going out anywhere else or damaging any kind of wildlife that live there. But having it in a position like with the Westbrook stream and having kind of a friends of would be helpful for the kind of long-term restoration of that area, because it's on the local plan as a designated green space for Swale Borough Council. So just making sure that we've got a kind of long-term vision for it as well as a short-term kind of clear up situation, I think is probably where we're at the minute.
Thank you, that's really helpful. I think Councillor Thomas had his hand up, and then Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, because there's two parts to the Cookstitch. There's the one that backs on to Cypress Road, and then the bit that goes a bit further up. Are you talking about both or one particular piece?
Yeah.
Let Councillor Perkin maybe come back and...
So I think it's kind of both. So I know that Madam Mayor has been looking at the bit that goes on the back of the houses. The particular area that we're looking to get cleared is over the other side of the footbridge by where the path goes in behind the QE school. So over that side of the bridge, there's a number of kind of blue sacks which have got, I think, builder's rubble in them that need to be removed from the river. But there's also quite a lot of just plastic littering, so it's kind of plastic bottles and packets, like crisp packets and stuff, and it is a bit of an eyesore. And it's just a real shame, because actually if you look over the other side of the bridge, on the other side it's quite lovely, and it's got kind of marsh marigolds and stuff growing in it, and then on the other side it's pretty horrid. So what the hope is really is that we hear back fairly swiftly from the officers about ownership, and then we can look at what the next steps are to being able to get into the stream to clear it, because my concern is there's quite a lot of kind of bramble growth on either side, and I know that if we leave it a huge amount more time, it is going to be almost inaccessible. So I'll continue to kind of chase the officers and see what the next steps are. But even if it comes to the fact that the town council might look at insurance for volunteers or something like that, I think it would be good to get something cracking when we're allowed out with coronavirus and stuff.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I was going to comment on the previous bit, but I'll comment on this first. As far as Cookstitch is concerned, certainly when I was a school governor at St Mary of Charity School, the boundary for land ownership went down the middle of the stream.
Yes, quite right.
So that, from the point of view of the the houses on the Cypress roadside, certainly where some area charity boundary finishes, that they would be responsible for one half, and the people who own the properties the other side, the other half. As far as the bit by QE, personal experience tells me that mud bank on the QE side is actually extends a lot further than you would think.
Oh yeah.
As a very young man,
yes,
I might have been at primary school still, but I certainly went up to my waist in it and had to be dragged out. So it's not as safe as you think.
No.
But that has been a very peaty section for a long time. So I urge anyone going in there to have waders and never go in there alone, whether that be us or the public. As far as the other areas of green space that we're looking at gardening, I think as far as this council is concerned, we should look at it as more a coordination of volunteer groups so that we know that they're there. And much as you've got the Friends of Westbrook Stream that have done a lot of work on that, I think for Cookstitch, that's a possibility, but I think there's fewer persons backing onto it. And I would also urge caution down by where the stream leads into School Farm, because I know there's a lot of archaeological interest in that area, which we'd have to be very careful with. So I have personally been the other side by the barns and that, and seen egrets and all sorts in there. So it's actually fairly clean from that point on. I think it's more, in all honesty, apart from the sacks that have obviously been dumped and have been there they've been in that stream for about 2 years.
Yeah, long time.
As I recall reporting them about in back 2018-19 winter. I think a lot of it is possibly where, dare I say it, wind-blown debris from matches and things happens in that QE area, because that happens, and because of the muddy bank on the QE side, I would imagine most people are told, no, don't go chasing that, even if you do want to go and pick it up if it's stopped. Because you do.
Fully.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? I mean, let's hope that we get a decent result from the environmental health team and do a decent look at it. But I do know that bank is where the tree line is actually the bank, even though it looks like there's about 4, 5, 6 foot of solid ground. It's not that solid. But yeah, Cookstitch is one. But as far as the other areas are concerned, I think it's a question really of just saying to groups, you want to do this, the town council knows you've got permission to do so, carry on. And as far as advice is concerned, wherever that comes from, that's just to be welcomed, whether it be Ali or the chair of this committee or whoever. It's just guidance on what to put in, isn't it? But seems to be their concern for the groups that already exist. And I think that's the way we should look at it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That's really helpful. Councillor Thomas, did you have your hand up from before? Is that?
No, it's up again, I'm afraid.
Okay. No, that's okay.
I was just going to say, going back to what Councillor Martin says, quite right, that the residents of Cypress Road their boundary does stretch to the centre of Cookstitch, wherever that might be. When I lived in Cypress Road on one of those premises that backed on to Cookstitch, I took a lot of pride in keeping my side clear and cultivating the other bank as well. I've been in Cookstitch, as Councillor Martin said, it is can be very deep, and quite a lot in there. It's very nice to look. I used to clear it because I wanted to see the little fish and the newts, and there was plenty of them back in.
loads of frogs.
Yeah, and there were sort of frogs.
They came into through our garage.
Well, I had a duck, and she laid eggs in the garden, so that was very nice. Anyway, what I was really going to be saying, my point here is I would suggest we do a survey, whoever's organising it, surveys those residents, because some of them are extremely keen and some of them aren't too bothered. But the ones who are already cultivating, I'm sure would appreciate some form of contact.
I think that's where we are with it. That's where we are. We had a look on Saturday, and I think to work down the stream, yes, some have really kept theirs well. Some want thinning out, and providing the residents are happy for the volunteers, I think that can be our project for now, while you're looking into the rubbish the other side. So I think there's progress to be had. Definitely.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, Councillor Perkin, do you have a hand up?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to kind of raise that there's been obviously quite a number of the public that have got in contact about it recently. I think there's been a bit of a buzz about it on social media, but just that there's already kind of people that have put loads of work into it. Leslie Seeger, for example, has done loads of research about ownership and all sorts, which has been really helpful for the officers at Swale. So I wanted to kind of give her a bit of credit for that. Yeah, she's been brilliant. And also, I know that the Swale Litter Squad are quite keen to help when and if we've managed to get permissions. So we'll keep in contact with them as well, and try to get the residents out as well. But obviously as well, we have to kind of still keep in mind that the rule of 6 doesn't come in until the 29th of March. So until then, we shouldn't be organising kind of volunteering.
Oh, no.
So yeah, but good progress, I guess.
No, it will be good. Yeah.
Councillor Thomas.
One final thing, but I could be teaching these people to suck eggs here a little bit, is when all the vegetation is pulled out of the ditches, the rubbish, to leave it for a while so everything will run back into the ditch afterwards. You'll be surprised how many newts I pulled out, and I'm glad I left it on the bank for them to run back into the ditch again. There are a lot of them there. You'll be surprised.
Yes, very, very good advice. Councillor Thomas. Sorry, Martin.
Sorry, just a quick one then. If there are newts in there, if there's any great crested ones, of course they're a protected species. You can't do anything if they're found there. So I think it does mean we need to make sure that the right environmental advice is taken. On that, and encourage others that may consider doing that to be very conscious of that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we are.
Okay. Well, I'll wrap that one up just to say that I think it's an ongoing one, and hopefully, everyone's talking about it in the right context, which is good. So we're kind of that could be really great. In regards to the general community gardening projects, all the ones that are on the list there, none of them really require action in as such. They're more just to highlight what people have raised. So it's really to get an idea if as a committee we're happy to keep sort of getting those that want to volunteer to make themselves known, but also those that have already expressed their interest to see what things they'd like to do, whether they'd like to take on any of these particular ones, or if they've got any other suggestions, and could sort of keep a list going. Maybe Brooke can facilitate that, so that we're rather than working on 100 projects, we're working on 1 or 2 that are kind of going to be good, and then we can build on it hopefully. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what I'll propose then is that we are asked Book to put that into sort of a to keep sort of hold of those details, and so as people contact, we can start to get an idea of what they want to do. But also maybe we will do another call out for people, use the poster again, and kind of get it out there. Okay, and we'll report back next meeting if there's any progress. Okay, thank you. I guess the second part of this item, this agenda item, is what we was talking about at the last meeting, which is the seed giveaway. Now, I apologise. I sent this document today rather than ahead of the meeting. I had so many documents and things, but I'll bring it up on the screen again because it's probably easier for me as well. So the idea really was to do a similar thing that we did with the tree giveaway, but obviously more seasonal, which would be seeds. I think it was someone on this committee suggested it, and I think it's a really good idea to do this. Basically, so the action at the last meeting was for myself and the town clerk to kind of discuss and come back with some sort of idea of how this could be done, and so the ideas of costings. It's been quite complicated because a lot of these companies are sort of really seem to be quite challenged at the moment with supplying stuff. So I was trying to find companies that will realistically be able to supply anything, and obviously ones that can do it in a fashion that is suitable for us to get a reasonable amount out there, rather than buying individual packets that were quite expensive. So I'll just explain them quickly. So one of the companies was this company. It's called Create Your Own Meadow balls, and they're basically seeds within a sort of a little compost ball that you basically either plant or throw onto the ground, and it grows sort of an amount of wildflowers. They're quite economical because you get quite a lot. You can get 500 in a bag, and I've just sort of I've done some rough kind of ideas of kind of how we could what the cost is for 400 or 500, and roughly, if we looked on a similar figure to we did with the trees, what that would give us. So I was trying to sort of visualize it that way, and so that was the seed ball. So it's £45 for 500, and that £500 would be 11 bags. It's roughly, we could do 450 giveaways if we did sort of 10. We could do less, we could do more. I don't really know. It's just a sort of suggestion, really. The other way is obviously do it conventionally, do it in seeds. And this company, Mould Seeds, do big packets of wildflower seed. Wildflower seed seems to be quite expensive. So this was one of the cheaper ones I could find. And they tend to be like kilo bags, basically. So again, you would kind of portion it down. I mean, obviously I wouldn't suggest anyone sit there weighing 7 kilos of seed, but just to try and work out roughly, how we would do that. So that's that one. And then Frenchy Seeds have actually offered us 400 grams, not millilitres, packets for free, apart from payment postage, £10 postage. Which I think is really good. So the challenge, as I said, was that the fact that there's a huge demand for these, and it's difficult to find companies that would actually be willing to supply. And these are the only ones really that I could find that had the capacity to do something that what we're looking for. Clearly, they're not quotations, and I appreciate that, but they an idea of whether this is a feasible option. The Frenchy Seeds, I think, obviously, if they're donating them, I think I think it's a no-brainer not to accept them. All right, it's £10, but in the scheme of things, I think it's quite kind of them to do that. We can obviously make good with those for people. I'd like be interested to know people's thoughts on that, or whether the town clerk has any thoughts about our previous conversations, because I've as I say, it's not been as easy as it could be at the moment. Has anyone got anything?
How long have we got before these seeds need to be in the ground?
Okay, yeah. Sorry, what I should have said was, I think initially we discussed possibly doing it in April.
Yeah. Coming soon.
Because obviously it's kind of mid-spring. You've also got the potential of the lockdown restrictions easing, which might make it easier for us to do the giveaway. Although the last one worked very well under restrictions, and actually I've put at the top of the document here that actually Earth Day is the middle of April. So it could be that we do it the weekend after or the weekend before to coincide with that, possibly. Doesn't have to be. I noticed that that's when Earth Day was. And it can be as simple as what we did before, where literally people either book a slot to come and collect them, or if it seems more doable by then, we could literally just have a stall and people can just come up and grab them. And my assumption is that by then we should be able to be safe to do that. So
that'd be good.
Yeah. What do people think? I don't know if Councillor Thomas, whether you had anything, whether you heard what I said. I'm not sure. I can't see everyone on the screen.
I read through it, Chair. I particularly like the seed balls. If we're thinking about a giveaway,
yes,
that seemed a good idea.
Yeah.
It does seem the most. Well, there's two things that strike me about it. Firstly, you get quite a lot for a relatively small amount of price compared to the seed, and it's possibly easier to distribute because you can quite easily count them out or into an envelope or something. So, and we would be able to distribute more of them if we was to look at a budget of similar to the tree giveaway. We've got the budget there. In fact, when I had a discussion with the town clerk, because she was putting together kind of allocating what we've already spent on budget, what we're looking to, there is enough to potentially spend more if we wanted to, but equally we have got the potential to do events and things this year. So we I think we can still do quite a lot for very, very sort of relatively small amount of money. Is what I'm saying.
And that's
what do you guys think about a figure of £500 to spend on this, similar to the tree giveaway, or people think they can spend less or more? Or
I think given what you're looking at, I mean, the balls, 400 balls seem to cover about a square metre, don't they? From what they're saying there. Right?
Yeah.
And looking at that, I think you would be looking at, I think the seed balls is the better option than the wild seed flower mix, I think.
Definitely.
Just from the point of view of being able to distribute, and whether you do 10 in a bag or 5 in a bag or whatever, you've got enough there to do, or even 2 or 3, depending on the size of people want to use it for.
Yeah.
I would certainly support spending the £500 on that. I also agree about the £10 on the Fuji seeds. I think that's no brainer, as you say, and we should do that. This will give us the opportunity to put this forward to people, and I'm sure there will be some of those spaces where if we did not have a take up of all of them, I'm sure we can find places to bomb with them, for want of a better word, if needed. And there will be no doubt places that we can distribute them to at a later date if we need to. So I'm quite willing to support that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. My based on the tree giveaway, which actually when we first did, although I was clearly very excited, it was very, very great when we got the trees. When I saw them arrive, I thought, oh my god, all these trees. But we got to a point where we actually had more people wanting them than we had trees for. So I think the demand, I think, to be honest, I think we're probably, I think there's been quite good uptake on it. And the other thing as well is the other seed company, and it seems like with some of the others as well, they've put on their website that they've got there's quite a bit of a delay with supply. So they said it could be up to a month. I mean, clearly that still possibly would be within time, but I think the seed balls might be a bit more efficient in getting to us. So we haven't got a huge amount of time if we were thinking in mid-April, for example. With the Frenchy seeds, the free ones, I've got a confession. They apparently turned up at the 12 marketplace today. Strangely, I hadn't even asked them to send them yet, but they just turned up. So I'm hopeful. I'm kind of.
We're meant to.
They kind of turned up before we agreed to have them, but I think, to be honest, they just was happy to give it to us. Yeah. But I think that's what it is anyway. There was a package arrived for me. It said my name. It said Councillor Chair of Climate or something on it. So I hope it's that. I hope it's anything else. So we've got those. But can I ask the advice of the town clerk with regards to the way that I've put these details on this document? Obviously, they're not official quotes. I've just kind of basically taken it off the website. Can we make a decision on something like this without having the quotes in front, or do we need to? What's the best process?
You're only suggesting spending £500, so that's absolutely fine. We don't need quotes.
Okay.
You don't. I can spend up to 500, so that's fine.
Okay.
We don't need quotes.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. Okay. Well, maybe just to sort of progress it. If I'm happy to propose, I think I've already proposed it, but I'll propose it. Propose that we allocate £500 for the seed.
Yes.
And for the seed giveaway, and that we progress with that. And Councillor Martin, you seconding it?
Seconding.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Is everyone happy with that budget for that?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. And in terms of dates, to give ourselves an idea and actually to start think about promoting it as well. Do you think working around sort of nearer the Earth Day kind of time? Do you think would that be good?
Time for people to meet.
Yeah, I think you'll be wise to do it towards that end of April, the 22nd to the 28th, or whatever, because that will then give us time to get the logistics here, and B, it's let's face it, we can't really do anything until after April 12th anyway with the lockdown restrictions that are in place. Although I'm not sure whether PERDA kicks in. We'll have to ask the
Yeah, it will be PERDA at that point, so it will have to be officers that give away the seed, not councillors, I'm afraid. But that's fine, we can organise that, it's not a problem.
When does PERDA start?
Is it the 23rd or 26th of March?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's
23rd, I think.
Okay. That's fine. I'm assuming that all sort of promotion, everything else apart from us as councillors not being there can be organised. Is it just the fact that we can't be there?
Yeah, you can't be there handing out.
That's what I thought. I thought about it earlier. I completely forgot. It seems quite alien that there's elections coming up with everything that's been going on. Okay. Well, the options. So Earth Day is the 22nd, which is a Thursday. So I mean, it could actually be done on that day, or it can be done at a weekend. But then that's perhaps not so good for the officers actually, because it's not working days. So I don't know. Maybe yeah, Councillor Martin.
I would propose that we take that discussion as to when to actually do it, the actual dates, in conjunction with officers outside of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think we can ask them to do that. I would say the week of the 22nd of April would be the dates we would be aiming to do it.
Okay.
And we can discuss the finer details with officers outside of the meeting.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree. Okay. Well, if everyone's happy with that, we do that. And if we promote it under the banner of Keep Faversham Buzzing,
yes,
as well, to keep tight with that, I think that would be good.
Definitely.
Brilliant. Well, that was easier than I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's let me get off of that. So we're nearly there, and it's quite a long one this time. There's always a lot on this agenda, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So the next item is
ethical
banking. To agree a proposal on how Faversham Town Council should bank to fit in with the climate emergency. So let me. It doesn't need to be a very long agenda item. So the reason I put this on, well, there's a couple of reasons actually. Talking to the Chair of Policy and Finance, Councillor Barker, I noticed that, sorry, I'll go back to the top. I noticed that it was being discussed at Policy and Finance recently. And because part of the processes of us going through our climate emergency and our actions, etc., is to obviously look at all different things that we do. And I think I thought it might be a good idea for this committee to endorse the fact that we think ethical banking is a good way forward. Clearly, I've written this in a kind of very much why ethical banking is good and some ideas. I'm not, to be honest, don't know the best course of how it fits in and what the town council need to do for that. And I think that's perhaps my personal opinion is it's Policy and Finance's decision. But I just thought it would be good for us as a committee to have an opinion on whether that's something the town council should do. So all I've done in this is I've put what is ethical bank and why we use it. I don't need to read it out word by word, but essentially the important thing to highlight is that in terms of how it fits with this committee is that it's about the town council finances not being affiliated with organisations that are to do with fossil fuels, basically, or anything that's damaging to the environment. And obviously the other side, the ethical side of not being involved with other kind of unethical industries. And this is quite important because we can't be carbon neutral if we're in any way linked to that. Clearly the banks are going in the right direction, the big banks are, but they're not there yet. So the banks that I've suggested here are only ones that I'm aware of, and by doing some research, I'm sure there are others, but they tend to be banks that are don't use the same facilities as the big banks. They're independent, but obviously there's things that need to be looked at in terms of whether they offer the financial guarantees so that money's safe. Various other things that need to, and obviously that it's user friendly for the town council, because some may not be. I'll just finish on the last bit, and then I'll see what everyone else thinks. So I've already explained that really. Basically, that we're on a track to become carbon neutral, and this is one way forward for that. I've obviously recognised that this is public money that the town council operate with, so it needs to be protected. And my proposal really is that if we're happy to do this, that we recommend that the town council switches to an ethical bank, and that this goes to policy and finance, unless it needs to go to full council. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to stop sharing that so I can see everyone. And I think Councillor Martin had his hand up first.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. And yeah, that's a very useful paper. I think initially my thought is that we should recommend that any additional accounts opened be with one of the ethical banks that you've suggested. I'm very conscious that we do use 2 of the big 5 for some of our banking, and we are looking, following the suggestion of the auditors. It wasn't a major comment, but it was a minor comment stating that we needed to perhaps look at where our reserves were kept so that we were within FSA limits, which are quite low for what's protected if the bank went bust. Now, I don't know about you, I can't see any of the big 5 going bust in a hurry, but and that was the opinion of the Policy and Finance Committee when they last discussed it. However, thank you for doing this, because it does actually give us something to look at. I am very conscious that not all of the banks offer local authority banking, which is slightly different to, very different to personal, and even slightly different to business banking. So it would be useful to know if all of those do do local authority banking as well as the business side. But other than that, thank you. I think this would be useful. I think it would need to go to the Chair of Policy and Finance, maybe to do a little bit more investigation of the banks you suggested, to see if they would offer the appropriate products for the town council. And I fully support the idea of gradually going down that route. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Thomas, got a hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to propose that the town clerk asks an appropriate officer to investigate those banks and put a proposal forward to whether it is suitable for us to change, and when might be a good time or not. We just need someone to do a bit more investigation for us.
Policy and finance.
Well, I'm happy to second that, because I think, as I said at the beginning, I'm no real expert. I'm just kind of putting forward something I think is the right thing to do. Town Clerk, is there anything any thoughts you had on it, or?
Well, my thoughts are that we're already working on this in policy and finance. I think we just need to be careful that we're not going out of our remit in this committee. But I think you've done the right thing to put together a paper. But policy and finance, I've already suggested that we go for more ethical banking. So I think it's in hand anyway. I've already started looking. So I think it's just a case of accept this paper as part of our action plan to think about climate emergency when dealing with anything with the council.
Okay, so that's what I propose.
I second.
Thank you. I didn't want to complicate it by superseding something in policy and finance, but I think it's important we as a committee are kind of on board with it, because I think it's the appropriate committee to sort of say, it's the right thing to do, kind of thing. And I know Councillor Barker said he welcomed to have that backup from another committee like that. So I think it's all in hand. So yeah, if we just recognise that, that's great. Any other questions on this? Okay. The next one is events. Now I think we've already mentioned one already, Earth Day, but with regards to the seed giveaway. But the conversation I had with Grace Couch at Swalborough Council today was that she is trying to organise an event for Earth Day, and it sounds very much like a lot of the things that they're doing, I think we could literally piggyback onto, because I mean, obviously we did stuff last year and we're doing the seed giveaway, but she's working on it primarily because, again, because of PERDA, she can organise various things. I know that Councillor Thomas will know. Well, I'm guessing he would know more about it as well. So I don't want to reinvent the wheel, because we're already sort of talking about a lot of stuff, if we can't, as councillors, get so much involved physically, then it's probably not too wise to take on too much, is my feeling.
No, for the officers.
Councillor Thomas, do you
remind me, when's World Environment Day?
World Environment Day is
5th of June, or is it 6th of June? I think it's 5th of June.
So that's fine, because that's after elections. So that's something we've that's another event we can.
I think you're right, Chair. Though we should work liaise with Grace Couch in that case, because I'm guessing we need to start thinking about it soon, because our next meeting as a committee is in May. Isn't it?
Exactly. I think the last meeting we weren't sure at that point whether it'd be possible to do much because of COVID restrictions, but obviously we've had information since then. Yeah, Councillor Martin.
Yeah, looking at those dates, I think you're right to say that for Earth Day we worked with Swale on that, and the seed giveaway that we're doing. For World Environment Day, I notice it's early June, which means there will likely still be some restrictions in place, because mass gatherings is not looking like till the 21st. So I think we need to perhaps work with Swale on that one as well, just so that we are not, because I'm sure their guidance on what sort of events can be run in that period would be useful to us as well. Yeah, does that sound fair? And see what they are suggesting, and then we can work
on it.
Well, the theme for Earth Day is restore our Earth, which is quite good, because if we're doing a seed giveaway, that's quite fitting, I suppose. There's also a global climate summit in the US on that day. President Biden's doing. I think it's Earth Day. Anyway, that's probably beside the point, really, because we. But just to give you a bit of idea, and World Environment Day, the theme is biodiversity, which obviously is quite fitting for what we do, and I think we were initially planning last year to have an event on the Rec before we knew COVID was happening. Clearly, I think still this June, it's still not probably going to be that wise to do, because you can't control the numbers, can you? So I think it's going to have to be sort of more or less virtual, unless we can do an exhibition into our marketplace that's controlled. But as Councillor Thomas said, we're running out of time really with planning anything. So Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I think what you just said there sums it up really. That bearing in mind the current timetable is only a suggested timetable. It does depend on how the science of COVID and what have you, as to whether those dates are stuck or not. Given that the 21st of June is the date that's been given for mass events, I think a virtual event, perhaps using what we've done before, I don't think we can do something on the recreation ground, much as I'd love to, for that World Environment Day. Perhaps, again, I can see 2022 being a massive year if we're not careful, having too many events to organise. But I do think it's something that, whilst we'd like to do it, we can't at the moment, which is why I suggest, again, we work with Swale to see what's possible. I don't think people can accuse the town council of not doing its part when it comes to climate and biodiversity. I think let's be honest, I think the town council has led the way on many things, not just in the town but outside, and provide a nudge for others. And I think, whilst not resting on our laurels, I think you have to be very, very conscious that if we're going to try and organise an event, that's not the time to do it. Perhaps this committee should look at the autumn for its major event, which could be a tree giveaway or something like that. But I think that's where let's be honest, that's where we're heading at the moment. It's not as though we're going to be booking bands for a festival. No,
sure. Thank you. Councillor Perkin.
The UN have, I'm just looking at it now. The UN have said that one of the themes is ecosystem restoration, and I think obviously there's quite a bit going on already in terms of what we've spoken about this evening in terms of ecosystem restorations. So I wonder whether it might be worth just doing a virtual event, but asking members of the public what they've been doing in terms of their little ecosystems in their gardens, or whether that be, you know, in Abbey Street, for example. I know that where the trees are in the road, some people have planted like things in and around the beds there. So just to kind of have a nice kind of an event to kind of showcase what the community is doing in terms of all kinds of different ecosystems. So whether that might be, you know, going and doing a litter pick in your area, or planting your tree, like an update on your tree that you got, or an update on your seed bomb and how that's going. I think that would just be quite a nice kind of feedback event, just of the things that have already happened.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. I think Earth Day last year was really successful because people kind of really engaged with it, didn't they? I mean, World Environment Day, it'll also be almost 2 years since we declared a climate emergency as well, which is quite good to sort of look back at the 2 years worth of stuff that's been going on. Not that we want to blow our own trumpet all the time, but obviously, but it'd be good to kind of integrate that with that. There's quite, I mean, in fact, so just to sort of bring it back together. So start with Earth Day. If we then, we're doing the seed giveaway, which I think is great, and that's probably enough in terms of a physical presence of things. That's a really good thing. And there'll be a lot of social media stuff around that anyway. And we will work with Swale on what they're doing. And I think Grace is going to email at some point, and she may have already done it actually, kind of what they're thinking of doing. So so that'd be good. So I think we can kind of work with that quite well, and that, because clearly it's quite soon anyway. For World Environment Day, I think, so if we're basically saying we're going to run pretty much a virtual event, but be it more based around what residents have been doing and what the wider community have been doing, rather than the wider world, if that makes sense. So it'd be Faversham World Environment Day kind of event. Is that have I got that right, Councillor Perkins? Is that what you said?
I think so. I think that, you know, even in terms of what we spoke about earlier with plastic grass and stuff, there's loads of little bits and bobs that are going on, isn't there, that we can kind of really make a big deal out of. I think the community are doing loads of different things that it would just be nice to kind of collate that all together, so we've got a bit of a showcase of what's going on in the town.
Maybe we can ask certain people like Swell Friends of the Earth and others to maybe do like last year, do some sort of video around, it could be around plastic grass or some other subject. I think it'd be really great.
Photographs,
So in terms of taking it forward then, by the next meeting, obviously Earth Day would have happened, so that's something we're going to have to sort of outside the meeting just kind of discuss any finer details. World Environment Day, if we can maybe come back if we can. So I'm trying to put my words together. If we can have a think about particular ideas to collate together, and maybe we need to have a little breakaway small meeting about it outside of this for those that are interested, to just refine a bit more detail, and then at the next meeting we can obviously finalise what we're going to be doing then, because it'll be a few weeks beforehand, so hopefully we'll have, by that point, we'll have it organised. So that's the plan. Is that all good with everyone? Yes. Okie dokie. Right. Is everyone happy to move on from that, from the event side of things? Yeah. Okay. Right. Last but not least, allotment update. I'm gonna ask the town clerk if she can, if you're okay, Louise, to just explain the situation with this fence as you see it, just because I may get it wrong.
We've been asked by the developer that they've offered to gift us a very small piece of land, so it's the difference between their fence and the fence that we've already installed. So basically, a portion of our fence would need to be removed, and in areas it's between 1 foot to 2 foot width. So it would actually solve the issue of having a no man's land, similar to the one that we've got at North Preston at the moment, where we see weeds growing. So it would be helpful from that respect, but it's all to do with the different levels that they've been building up there. So basically it's just, are we happy to accept that land? Which I don't see any reason there being a problem.
No, I think.
Can I? Is it also my understanding this solves the planning problem with the eastern side?
Well, there won't be any fence there for there to be an issue with the height. Sure. So yes.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thomas.
So, which parts of the existing fence that town council put up needs to come down, other than the bit along the back? I understand the bit along the back bordering the housing development. Is there any other parts that have to come down?
No, the only option with the issue with the height, the only option would be to basically cut the fencing that runs along the footpath that's opposite the houses, because that really effectively would be the only piece of fencing that affects everybody else. But Adam's had a quote for that, and that would cost about £3,000. So that's actually quite a significant cost to do that.
Yeah, I must say personally, I'm not keen to move on that unless the planning department particularly insists on it. But I'm trying to remember that the hold up was having this agreement, wasn't it? Or
yes, Graham Thomas has not been so willing to speak to Adam, despite I know he sent emails to some councillors, but he's not been very good at communicating with Adam, and has just basically referred Adam to contact the developers, and obviously it is about this fencing, but it doesn't resolve the issues anywhere else, particularly that small footpath. But we're hoping that that if we go back to Graham, that we can get this resolved.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that we accept the land, accept what the developer's offering, and then go back to planning, go back to Graham Thomas to find out exactly what he feels needs to be done. I have had a look at the diagram. Am I right in thinking that the developer is going to put a fence on their side of the metal fence and some shrubs or something? Am I reading the diagrams correctly?
Yes, that's correct, because their fence, I think, is already 6 foot or so higher than the fence that we've put there.
Right.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I think what's happened is with this is that the objection to the height of the fence that was put up along that boundary didn't take into account the fact that because it's not more than 2 metres, the height difference, it doesn't show on an ordnance survey map. So therefore, it looked, as far as the borough council officers were concerned, as though this was going to be 2.5 metres above the land level. But I don't think they took into account the fact that there was a 1.5 metre drop between one bit of land and the other, which the developers are actually putting piling in to maintain. So I fully support taking on this bit of land and getting this rather strange condition sorted out. Let us hope that we can put in any other suitable mitigations, even if it means climbers up the other bits of fence as mitigation. Maybe that's what the borough council will accept. We'll have to go back to the planning officer on that. But that, I would say, I second the motion to take on this bit of land, follow the developer's plan to separate the allotments from the land. I also note that on the developer's plan, it moves the footpath accesses to where we need them, rather than where they thought they might just casually put them. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we should wholeheartedly support this and go back with it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I don't. There's no reason not to agree with it. I share a similar frustration to Adam and Louise, because I think that I've written to Graham Thomas at Swale on behalf of Adam as well, to try and chivvy things along. I don't think I found it quite frustrating, because I don't feel like it's been very helpful, particularly because none of the officers have been willing to come and look at the site to determine what mitigation needs to happen on the other parts. Because, you know, Adam's been saying that, we're not saying we won't do anything, but what do you want to see happen? So I think this might move it along a bit, because it's resolved at least one side. So I think we've all agreed that that's a good thing to do, and then hopefully we can get a bit more information from planning. About the rest of it, and hopefully get it sorted sooner or later.
Well, finally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay. Well, I think that's everything. So just after 9, so it's not too bad. It's quite a lot to go through. So thanks everyone. That was really constructive, really good. Just keep. Yeah, Hannah, did you?
I'll just very quickly. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just put on the minutes that in the following meeting, if we could discuss log burning fires, that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Put that on the agenda. Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll forget.
May I ask, Councillor Perkins, is that just log burning or all solid fuel?
Well, I mean, I guess that can be a discussion for next time. I'm not prejudiced on what's burning.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I hadn't really anticipated that question.
We'll make sure it's on the agenda next meeting. Okay.
Apologies, Hannah. I'm old. I remember putting coal on the fire.
Absolutely. So do I. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'll draw the meeting to a close.
All right.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.